All right. So are you here for the training? I guess. Hi, are you here for the training?
Yeah, in the class.
Oh, you have an appointment with Nicholas.
Yeah, for campus.
Okay, I don't think Nicholas is here till 1.
Okay, yeah, I think
But you're welcome to stay, have coffee, relax, and enjoy. We're going to be doing a training over here.
for
That's
the campus also.
yes, but this is for the people who are in the online class. You're welcome to sit in. It certainly won't throw anybody out. So, today we're going to talk about authentic assessment in your online environment. And before we begin, I'd like to take a minute and just kind of let everybody introduce themselves, all three of us, and have you share one thing that you really like about online learning or teaching, and one thing that you're not so crazy about. So I'm Donna Green. I'm our campus instructional designer. I've been teaching a long time, face-to-face and online. One of the things I really like about online learning is every student has to be involved. They can't sit in the back of the class and just fade into the woodwork. Right? If you're doing discussion, whatever it is, they have to be involved. And I really like that, and I get to know the students much better than I do actually in my face-to-face classes. What I don't like about online learning is often my students are unprepared. They take an online class thinking it's going to be easier. And I spend the first 3 or 4 weeks trying to catch those students that are never logging in, they're not completing work, and inevitably I'll hear from them, well, I didn't realize it would be so much work to take an online class. The students who are prepared, who've done online before, they tend to do great.
Okay, well, hello. I'm Keith Stafford. I am an adjunct business professor. I've been teaching for about 2 semesters now. And one thing that I think I would like about an online class, I haven't actually taught any, so this would be my first one.
Okay.
But I think one thing that I would like is piggybacking off of you is probably the participation aspect of it, that each student would have to indeed be accountable for their own work on there, so to speak. And I do feel that you would get to know them a little better than if in face-to-face where they might be able to slip in through the cracks some kind of way. One thing I don't like, I think about it, is my perception of it probably would be is that it would probably be a lot more work to do than the in-person. So
It very much is, you're right.
Okay.
It is a
That's
lot
what I
more
was
work
thinking
than
with
in
the
person.
emails and the assignments and trying to facilitate.
Keeping up with all the students and keeping ahead, especially the first time you teach a class, you're building those modules.
Yes.
Whereas when I'm teaching a class I've already taught, I'm just refining a module and hitting open.
Yes.
But it is a lot more work.
That's,
But the upside of the more work is you can do it whenever. Just like the students,
That's
right?
true.
I can sit in front of my TV at night with my laptop and just grade. You know, it's just, it's that part of it. It is more work, but it's different work.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Carrie Seichter, and I am an adjunct professor in the digital design and production section with Mary, and I've also taught in the computer information systems department as well. And I actually got my bachelor's degree online. So for me, I loved it because I had to work full time and I had a family and everything like that. And so going to classes even at night wasn't even an option for me. So I could, you know, if it was 11 o'clock p.m., I might be up doing some of my, you know, homework and stuff while the kids are asleep. So I like the flexibility aspect of it, and I think the online students here do as well, because they probably have very active lives and maybe even families and stuff. I kind of agree with you on the con of the more work, because I don't know how I can handle more work right now. But actually, I think my con would be I love the face-to-face interaction. Like, I just really do with my students, because a lot of my students, that's actually what they want their career to be. And so we do a lot of, we teach the textbook some, but we do a lot of real world situations, and they come to me and they're like, hey, I've got this or that, and we talk through it. And so I know that's possible to do online, but I don't know how I'm going to get that connection with them, like, as strongly as I do sometimes face to face. So that's not really a con, but more of a question of mine, is like,
Sure.
how am I gonna do that?
How do I make that work?
Yeah.
And I took my doctoral work was all online. And for the same reason, working full-time, and I had family. My son was still at home. He's now off doing his own thing, but he was at home, and it's a busy life we lead, and I wanted the pay bumps, quite frankly.
Yeah.
As a full-time professor, there's some big pay bumps with
Right.
those additional units, post-master's degree, postdoctoral. So I did it all online, and it was interesting and fun. I loved the flexibility, but things have come a long way, actually, because this was a while ago. This is like 10 years ago. Things have come a long way in the last 10 years, and I will be able to get to some of that. How do I do that face-to-face interaction?
Okay.
Because it's what I missed at first, too.
Yeah.
You should be able to do some multimedia type.
There's a lot you can do now. Yeah, there are things you can do now that I've found really enhance that relationship. One of the first things I do is I use Zoom instead of the big blue button, the confer button that's in Canvas. I use zoom.us, and as community college faculty, we have a free pro account through, it's California Community College faculty. We have a free pro account. It's through the Online Education Initiative. So you can get that pro account. And one of the things I do is I use the scheduler tool in Canvas, and I set up 10-minute appointments, and I have my students sign up for them. And I meet with them virtually. So my office hours are not just, oh, I'm available Monday, Wednesday evenings. I do evening office hours because they're all working during the day. Monday, Wednesday evenings, 7:30, 7 to 8:30. And so it's not just, oh, I'm available, but here are the appointments. They're in 10-minute increments, and you have to sign up ahead of time. And so then we use the Zoom meeting, which is a virtual meeting. So they're physically in front of their webcam, I'm in front of my webcam, and they can share their screen. And I can share mine.
Okay.
So if a student says to me, well, I can't find the groups, I don't know how to find the groups. Instead of trying to email them and say, well, it's on the far left toolbar, on the bottom, show me your screen. And I tell them, see the bottom on the ribbon where it says share screen? And they'll fumble a minute. Yes, click on that. And then I just say, okay, see under your picture, there's the groups button. Oh, click on that. And then I walk them through it. And they're doing it. So, and they inevitably, I just sent out my mid-semester, and this is the first semester I started doing this. And I just sent out my mid-semester course evaluations. And I've had 3 students reply that they really loved the face-to-face meetings in Zoom.
Okay.
That they would never, had I not sort of insisted, the first 2 weeks it was extra credit.
Okay.
You got 5 points of extra credit for logging in with me and for having an actual question. So you couldn't just log in and say, give me my 5 points. You had to have an actual question, but they have tons of questions. They just don't think, oh, I'm going to waste her time if I log in to ask her this question. To them, it feels like a stupid question. I can't find the groups. Right? So they're like, oh, that's a silly question. I don't want to waste your time. Like, no, use that time to help yourself. And they all really, really like it. So that is probably a good way to get that face-to-face connection piece back. That's I've found.
Mhm.
Hi, I'm good. How are you? Okay. Are you here for the online assessment training? Or are you just here to work?
No, for the, for the online certification. Yeah.
Okay.
The assessment
So-
caught me off.
That's okay. Before you grab a computer, because you're like the last one in, can you just introduce yourself to everybody? And we're saying one thing we like about online learning and one thing we don't like.
Lindsay, Holt, I teach PS1 here. Something I like about online learning, I like that there's a lot of flexibility with what you can do. I think I haven't learned a whole lot about what those things are yet, but I'm assuming that that there are lots of great ways that you can communicate with young adults in ways that they understand, probably a little bit more so than we do. But it's intimidating to me because I know I look really young, but I'm actually not. And when I was in college, we were just starting to use personal computers. We didn't have cell phones when I was in high school, so a lot of this is very new to me, and I feel outpaced at times by my students. Well, most of the time by my students. So, but it does present a way in which you can better organize your materials, and I'm learning that through my face-to-face class. And through this class, how, I would just usually send things out via announcements, but now I can actually create discussions. And my only issue that I have is that, teaching classes sometimes in places like Mecca where students don't have, access. I haven't learned yet where the definitive line is between, how much online information is too much for some students that may not have access to it on a daily basis. So.
Sure.
I guess that's way more than you
No,
guys bargained
That's
for.
good. No, that's very good. So, and you know where to get the computers?
I'm allowed cold medication.
Oh, it's okay.
Yes, I do, and I think I know how to log them out.
Okay.
We'll see.
Okay, so while Lindsay's getting set up, I'm going to go ahead to the next slide. And actually, what I would like you to do, if you have your smartphone with you, is to get the app for Kahoot. So if you have a smartphone,
Do you know what the wireless
for
or the employees?
the
password
employee wireless is Nicholas. Sorry to bother you, but I saw you come in. Did he go back out?
is? Yeah, it's just
The Wi-Fi for,
Capital I, capital T, at your SERV number 1,
wait, I'm sorry. Capital T, and then
AT,
AT, not like the at.
Y,
AT,
Y-O-U-R? Like for your, or?
yes,
Y-O-U.
YOUR SERV, the number 1, CE.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Nicholas. I always forget it because it's just in my stuff. So Kahoot has an app, and what I'd like you to do is interface with this the way I would have students interface with it. Now, you can link this online into your online class, but what I do is I have students, whenever there's an app, by the way, Canvas has a free app. Wherever there's an app, I tell students, get it, because they are much more comfortable on their phones than they actually are on computers. They're more comfortable on their phones and on their tablets. So Kahoot has an app, and it's free. How are you doing, Lindsay? Do you need a hand, or are you okay?
No, sorry. That was decision.
Okay. You don't need a hand, you're just trying to figure out what you want.
Yeah, I was gonna pick a surface, but maybe it's better if I.
Yeah, unless you're really comfortable with those Surface Pros.
Yeah, okay, that's good to know.
The laptops are easier. And have you used these laptops? You know how to,
Once before, but.
you got it. Okay, and so what we're doing is downloading the Kahoot app to our smartphones. Because the other thing I do with any of these kinds of things is I play with it myself first. Before I unleash it on my students, I play with it as much as I can. So just let me know when you've got it. And if you have an iPhone, it's a little purple K with the exclamation mark. Quizzes also has an app. And then while you're downloading it, I'll go ahead and click on my Kahoot game.
So do we need to create an account at the website address?
You do not need to, when you want to make your own Kahoot, you'll need to create an account, but students don't need to create an account. You don't have to, they just need the app, and if they don't have a smartphone or they don't want to download the app, they can just navigate to Kahoot. So I'm going to go ahead and start this game. So I would have students would navigate to the Kahoot, and this is going to be a classic game option.
I'm sorry, what's the password, please?
Oh, capital C. Log into the computer. So then once you plug in, you can either navigate to kahoot.it, or you can do it on your smartphone. Here it is. And what's funny is you probably noticed everybody's in. You probably noticed when you signed in, it gives you a warning about naughty names. Well, because you play this, a lot of people play this with middle school, high school kids, and some of our younger students. So I know that everybody's logged in. Click on Start. So this one is just a survey. You've just got the triangle, the circle, the right. So I gave you 30 seconds. That's okay. So here's what I can do. We can try it again. You guys are already logged in. You're all joined. So let me click Start. You just pick one and click on it on your app.
I was waiting for instruction, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Now see when I play. So how many ways do you assess students? The red triangle goes to exams one way. And use formative assessment. There you go. So by using it as a poll, I can see who answered what. So if I were doing this online, I could leave it open for students and tell them, this will be open on thus and such a day. You know, how many of you read the full chapter and understood it? Whatever poll I wanted to use, I could do this. So it's a fast, simple poll. You can do quizzes with this. There's jumbles with this. if you're doing a quiz, I haven't tried the quizzes online. Face to face, they're very interactive and the students can see who's in the lead at the end of each question, and they love that. They're very competitive. Now, I've used it for polls online, but I've not tried it for the game quiz online. But it's one of those things, when I roll out something new like this to students, I do a low stakes. This is not, you're getting 5 points of extra credit for playing with it. And the students will eat up extra credit like crazy. So the first time it's extra credit or it's a very low stakes, it's worth a couple points just to get them used to it. Because what would happen is just what you guys did. I will have students who will log in and go, I don't know what to do. I was so confused by that. So then I'm able to follow up and say, okay, explain to me where you got stuck. And I can walk them through it. But it's one simple way.
Oh, I like that.
And then I can
Will you
download
teach
the
us
results.
How to actually formulate one of the.
So for me, if I click on, as faculty, you want to go to create.kahoot.it. And then you'll create your account there as an instructor.
.it.
Kahoot.it.
Would there be a link to this website? Like how would this integrate with Canvas, I guess,
So-
where I'm trying to wrap my head around it?
You download it as a link. Yes, so
Okay.
when I'm done with let me go to my Kahoots and show you. So here's the one we just did. So I've got play, preview, favorite, duplicate, share underneath. So when I click on the share, I can share it via email. So if I have people who I know are users in Kahoot, I can just enter their names and I can share it that way. I can copy and share the link here. If I have a Facebook page I'm using, I could put it onto Facebook, right? Twitter, Pinterest, Google+, or just straight email it. What I do in my class is I use the share link. So I put it on, I create a page and say, okay, we're going to play Kahoot. Here's your game link. Click on it to begin to play. Because this is the link that will take them right to playing. So see, it brings them right here and they click on play. And they would play by themselves. Okay? So Kahoot is one of those kind of fun things. Let me get back into my PowerPoint. It's one of those kind of fun things. You can use it for low stakes. You could make a quiz out of it. I don't know. It's one of those things I would use for a formative assessment. That's my biggest use out of it, or for review. Before we do an actual exam or quiz, I would use Kahoot for a review. So that students could play it. They see the correct answers, so they know if they've missed something. They'll get credit just for playing, right? You've played, that's when you've done the review. Hopefully you'll do better on the quiz. It's just another tool, right? I've not used this as a summative assessment. And I don't think it's something that I would because of the noise, right? The music and the noise and it just feels too kind of fun.
Right.
Students would get concerned.
And you want to keep the quizzes in Canvas so that they get graded and.
So that it can upload right into Canvas, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is not something that, again, but it's one of those things that kind of keeps the course fun and engaging for students. They enjoy it. I've had students write the Kahoot questions for the reviews, and they send them to me. I just make a few minor changes. I vet them, and then I upload them into Kahoot, and there's your review. So in a face-to-face class, I'd have prizes, right? Online, there's no real prizes, but not like these kind of prizes things, little toy things, stuff that I get from the dollar store. I love that stuff. So Brown University, and I've got a link here to it. So, and this will be posted in the Canvas site, so you'll be able to link to this as well, is 9 Principles of Good Practices, and it's about assessment. So it's all about assessment. And one of the things it starts talking about is, beginning with the educational value. Assessment should be a vehicle for educational improvement. So for students, what they should know at the end of an assessment is, what do I need to do to master the content I didn't get? And sometimes we forget that piece, right? We give a quiz at the end of the unit, and you didn't do well on the quiz. What feedback are we giving to the student that says, here's how you can improve next time? We're often not doing that, right? We just say this, well, you kind of bombed that one. Good luck with the next one. Study harder, try harder. So thinking about that idea of, what is the educational value of this assessment, right? If I'm giving a quiz, is there an educational value to the quiz beyond just getting a score? We need to remember that learning is multidimensional, right? We don't learn in just one way, just by reading and maybe writing. It's multidimensional. We learn by interacting with the material, right? We learn by doing. The best learning happens when we teach others. That's the best learning, right? When you teach somebody else something you learn, you really own that material. It's integrated and it's revealed in performance over time, right? I'm a much better teacher now than I ever was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. Why? Because I've been doing it over and over again. So again, when we are assessing students, we have to remember many of them are still at that novice stage. So if we're assessing for mastery, we've got to remember they may not master it till 6 months after they leave our class, because it's something they're going to then go out and use. CIS, right? They're going to go out and use the stuff they're learning, and as they interact with it and play with it more and more, they're going to become more proficient. Our assessments need to have a clear stated purpose and goal. It's important for students to understand what's the purpose of this assessment. All of my major assignments, and anytime I give a quiz, anytime I give even a discussion thread, I have tied it to a course objective or to a student learning outcome, so that they know what's the purpose of this. Students completing this assignment will be mastering SLO number 3, and then I describe what that is. So they understand the purpose of it. Why am I taking a quiz? To get a grade. Sometimes we forget, we just get kind of locked into this is how we were assessed as students, and we forget that there are other ways. We need to be attentive to the outcomes, but also to the experiences that lead up to the outcomes. So, and by that, what we want to do is think about, when in class or online, do students seem to be reflecting the material best? So is there something, like for me, that little Kahoot game? That's an experience that students do that I find when they've done it, they understand the material better. Because they're writing the questions. So they have to go back and interact with the material again. Or I'll have them view a TED Talk, and then they reflect on the TED Talk, right? So it's those experiences that lead to the better outcomes. So I'm assessing those things as well as one big assessment. Assessment works best when it's ongoing, right? If we're just doing a midterm and a final, we're not really capturing student learning. That we're really not, right? There's just so much that's going on. And again, if I go back up to that first one, if it's a vehicle for educational improvement and I'm only getting assessed twice in a semester, how do I know? How am I getting any feedback at all? Right? The most important part of that assessment is the feedback. The A student doesn't need us. It's the C student and the D student who need us. At the F student, they're just not trying at all. They're putting in no effort. The A students, they could literally do it by correspondence, most of them, right? But the B students, usually most of them just skip one or two things and they would be fine. But it's those C and D students that really need that feedback and understanding. They're the ones who crave it, right? If you ever assign essays, it's the C and the D students that are like, well, what did I do wrong? What did I miss? You didn't explain this enough. Right? I'll circle and say, you need to work on your grammar. Well, what does that mean? I'm not the English teacher, but your grammar's poor and you're not going to pass a college level class until you have better grammar. So it needs to foster improvement. It makes a difference when the results can be used. One of the things that I have found to be really dynamic for students is to have them do peer review and self-assessment. And then I look at their self-assessment and just glance at their work and say, yeah, you're good, you're on the right track, or you're far too easy on yourself. I count 5 mistakes in the first paragraph. The first part of this, I count 5 mistakes, and you think you're in good shape. I want you to go back and review your work. Go to the tutors. And we have online tutors. So getting that feedback before they turn in the final project makes a huge difference for them, right?
And have you figured out how to use the peer review?
I have.
Canvas?
Yeah, I can show you guys how to do that. I use the peer review on Canvas. I do it in a discussion thread.
Okay.
I set up a discussion thread where they'll submit, either attach, if it's a longer term assignment like an essay, they'll attach the essay. And then what you have to do is set the due date to turn it in, and then you can do the assigning of the peers.
Okay. And you just attach your grading rubric for the students if they're doing
Yeah.
to the initial thread.
So the students see the grading rubric up front. At the beginning of every assignment is attached the rubric, right? So that they know these are the things that I have to do in order to pass this assessment. In order to pass this assignment, I have to do X, Y, and Z. They have to know that up front. But the biggest learning happens in that peer review, in that self-assessment. That's when the learning really happens. The final projects for me to grade usually are quite easy. By the time I'm seeing them, I've already seen them. And I've been able to flag the students that need the most work. And say, okay, I've got, 4 students in here who are just riding a low C. So I'm going to reach out to them and say, you need to use the tutors. Do you need help with me? Meet with me. We talked earlier about using that Zoom meeting, right? You meet with me so I can go over this with you. That's what my office hours are for. I have to remind them. That's what my office hours are for. They're for me to help you be more successful. You're not getting the content. And I find that 90% of the time, it is not lack of effort. It really is, they just don't know how to do it. Occasionally, there's the 10% that it's just lack of effort. They're just throwing something on there the day before it's due. But when I scaffold an assignment and they're still doing poorly, I know that the student is really struggling. And I love this last piece that they have where they say that a good practice of assessment is that it meets the responsibilities to students and the public. And I had to pause and think about that, because yes, I'm responsible to my students to give them good assessments and to give them good feedback, but I am also responsible to the public. I'm setting these students loose, saying, especially those of us in CTE, right? We're setting them loose saying they're job ready. If I'm not really effectively assessing them, I don't know that they're job ready. Just because they pass those classes doesn't mean that they are, if I'm not doing some of these good practices. So the full article is linked here. It's from Brown University, and I'll put this on the website. You'll be able to see the full article with references. And this is all fleshed out in much more detail. So some examples, this is from the University of Florida Center for Instructional Technology and Training. Get rid of Kahoot. So this is, again, it's an article on authentic online assessment and online learning. And it talks about some of these examples: peer review, self-assessment, problem-based learning, discussion boards, role play. You need to stop and think sometimes, how do I do role play in an online class? But we forget smartphones and apps. The students are way ahead of us, right? If you say, I need you to record thus and such, they're on it. I recently took a class through @ONE where they talked about using social media in their classes. And I had been really, hesitant about it. And I've not used it very much. I've used Twitter. I like using Twitter. And what I tell students is they can tweet the concept. I have a Twitter account. So they can take this big concept, this big idea, and get it down into those few characters. That's some serious critical thinking, right? Create a meme. Create a meme around Freud's understanding of oral development. That's work. They think about that and they come up with some great stuff. So, and what I've gone to though is if there's students who don't like to tweet, right? They don't Twitter, they don't want to tweet. Then I tell them, then they can just put the concept on the discussion thread. That's fine. Upload it to the discussion thread. You do not have to use social media to do this. Facebook. So the instructor that I worked with, she had a closed Facebook group that we all belong to. And it's hard getting, it's really more the older people. I hate to say it that way, but it's the older people that worry about the closed Facebook group, right? The students are like, oh, cool. You have a closed Facebook group. What's the hashtag? I'll sign up tomorrow. Where is it, right? But it's faculty who get really worried about that. Well, what about Facebook? What about privacy? I don't want that all out there. It's like, no, it's a closed group. Only the students in it can see it. No one else can see it, and you don't post grades. And I tell students if they really are concerned, because I've had students come up to me privately and say, I do have some safety concerns with being online. So I tell them, create a pseudonym and tell me what it is. You can be Sally Sister, and that's it. You're Sally Sister. I know who you are. You're contributing. Nobody else has to know who you are. Done. And that alleviates their concerns right away. Because I do remind them it's behind a firewall. It's a closed Facebook group. Nobody else can get in there. And they're happy with that. They're happy with that idea. So what I saw was a Spanish instructor had her students go out and record themselves speaking Spanish to someone they did not know. So this required real effort on the part of the student. Find somebody who I don't know who speaks Spanish, go and speak Spanish to them. It was like a Spanish 3, right? So these are more advanced Spanish speakers. And with their permission, she shared some of the videos that they had uploaded. And they were amazing. One student it was Southern California, they went to a Cardenas market and shopped in the market and recorded themselves shopping in the market, asking for things, paying. It was great, right? Another student had gone to a library, and she stood outside the library, and as people walked by, she just asked them, do you speak Spanish? Do you speak Spanish? And when somebody said yes, do you mind if I record you and I having a conversation? And the one girl said at the beginning, the woman said I could record her voice, but not her picture, so it's only me. So it was just, the camera was just on her, but she was talking back and forth with the woman. The students come up with this stuff. She just says, do it, and then they do it. So it's that idea of authentic assessment, right? Role play. Get out there and do what you want. This semester, I'm teaching a class on teaching dual language learners in early childhood education. And I'm having them interact with children who are dual language learners in a classroom and record themselves doing that. Reading a story to children in English and then reading it in Spanish, even if they don't speak Spanish. So there's a lot of work going into this, right? Teaching them how to choose the book appropriately so that if you don't speak Spanish, there's not a ton of words. Right? Use a toddler book with very few words that are repetitive, and then they're going to record themselves and record the children. Now they have to get signed permission slips from everybody, and they have to upload all of that. I've not had one question except from my few older students. The students who are a little bit older. Well, now I'm not sure how I'm going to upload the file. Not how do I record myself, but how do I upload the file? And I can walk them through that. So that part of it is very authentic. It's very important to what I'm teaching. So, and these all are hyperlinked. So there's a lot of good, interesting stuff in here. And then it gives you steps to identifying authentic assessment and developing it. Identify the standard, right? What does it look like when a student is meeting the standard? Right? What does that look like in my assessment? Then I select the tasks that I want them to perform. Identify essential performance criteria for the tasks. So for instance, for my book reading, and that's how you're going to develop the rubric. So for my book reading one, the student has to select a book that they're able to read in both languages. Right? That's one of the tasks that they have to do, and I'm going to assess them on that. So if I select a book that I know very well in English, but it has a ton of words that I don't know in Spanish, that's not going to do well on that rubric, right? So I've really got them thinking about those things. Then how they do the read aloud is important. Are they allowing the children to interact? They've got that whole list of criteria. Here are the things that you have to do in order to pass this assessment, to say you've mastered this. And then the last piece that I will often do in something like this is I will record someone doing it to show them what it looks like when it's mastered. Because often they're confused. Well, I'm not sure how that looks. In the book reading one, they don't have to. But sometimes, like, I'll have them create a PowerPoint for a parent meeting. So then they say, well, how does that look? Because I don't want them creating a PowerPoint that just summarizes what they learned in the chapter. Because I say, I've read the chapter, I know what it means. You're not creating a PowerPoint for me. You could be training other teachers, you could be training parents, and in which case I'm going to look for an introduction that explains this in a way that parents would understand. I'm going to look for the material put into language for parents. So it really requires some critical thinking for them. Another really good article, though.
Is there a link on there that helps describe how to create the rubric, like in detail? Because that's what I've kind of had a hard time with, is my stuff is not really cut and dry like most classes. It's more project-based, and like creating a video of an interview or something like that. So my rubric probably looks a lot different than most, and that's what I have a hard time is.
So this link down here is Rubrics in Online Learning.
Okay.
This is a very interactive website. There's a lot of material on here.
To that on the
The
Canvas
link,
site?
it will be on the Canvas site,
Okay.
and it's in the PowerPoint, but it's University of Florida Center for Instructional Technology and Training. And if you just look for authentic assessment, it will bring you right to this website. but it will be in Canvas. So what I did is I uploaded the PowerPoint, and then once the recording is done and it's been captioned, I'll include the recording of this as well. Let me get back to so the University of Florida, they have how to make the rubrics. Because yeah, your rubrics end up being very specific, right? That my rubrics are going to look very different than yours are, because we're teaching different things. There are pieces of rubrics though, and I can show you some of the ones in my classes. I have some rubrics that I'm able to use over and over and over again. Discussion thread rubrics are very generic for me, right? Usually my discussion threads are 5 points. 5 points for one post, 5 more for a reply. And the rubric is very generic. They have 2 points for thoroughly addressing the writing prompt. And so if I ask you about, what are some strategies to use with children who are dual language learners, and you start talking about something completely different, you're not going to get points for that because you're off topic. So 2 points for the topic. 2 points for that they fully address it and they cite appropriate sources. So I want them citing the textbook. I remind them a discussion thread is meant to take the place of an in-class discussion. So in class, if we're talking about this, you're going to open your book and say, well, right here on page 5, it says this. Online, you can't do it that way, so you're citing it. Right? According to the PAL, right, which is one of the textbooks, on page thus and such, there are 6 different things that we can use for children. And then they describe them. And then 1 point I always leave aside for college level writing skills. Because if you do not capitalize I, and you don't use proper punctuation, and you use slang, I will ding you for it. I'm really looking for mastery of the content, but it is a college level class, and is a transfer class. I'm going to require a level of college level writing. So, but I use that discussion thread rubric over and over and over and over, because it doesn't matter what the writing prompt is. It's always going to be the same assessment. So that kind of thing is nice. It's when I get into more of the projects like the one I was describing, or the book reading. That rubric is going to be very different, right? Because I have to analyze all those pieces of that task to see that they've met it. So here are some of the other kinds of assessments that I use. Poll Everywhere is another polling tool. And if you want to sign up for that account, I can sign you up. I'm the account manager here at COD. So Poll Everywhere, the students are required to log in because you want to be able to follow their polls. And I don't think I have my login stored on this laptop. Nope, I do. So a poll, according to Poll Everywhere, is one question. So here's one that I've used in the past for a training where I've asked people, what do you want to get out? Let's see, where is it? There it goes. What do you hope to get out of today's session? And then what I had was the answers came up in little text boxes. So again, I can use this online in the same way I would in a face-to-face class. The difference is I would have to then take a screenshot of those results and post them. I've often used this to generate a word cloud. So I've had students reply with what they thought that was the most important thing they read in a chapter, and then I'll create a word cloud. You guys know what I mean by word cloud? Okay. I wonder if I've got one in here. Let me look at my polls. Or actually, I probably could have just done that with this one. So response settings. It's been a while since I played with these. A word cloud, since I mentioned it now, I'll show you one. It takes the responses that you put in. So here's a word cloud generator. You have to type in responses. And when you do, it generates an image. If there just is one to look at. It makes it, there we go. Here's one to look at. Wordle does it. Lots of things do it. But Poll Everywhere can do it for you. And it just creates this image, and the word that is used the most becomes the largest, and the word that's used the least becomes the smallest. So if students are replying over and over again with one or two words that you hope they're replying with from the chapter, it's going to come up nice and big. So, and Poll Everywhere can do that for you. It's really nice in, again, in a face-to-face class, because they can see it immediately as they start replying. They see that word cloud generating. But you can certainly use it in your online classes. I'm trying to see if I have one. I know I have many, but I'm trying to remember if I have one that I had. I think this one, oh, there's no responses to it. This one might have been a word cloud. Yep. This is what they look like when they generate them. So this was on the first day of class. I had asked students, what do you hope to learn in this class? So you can see they said learn over and over again. But it was a class about child, family, and community. So I was encouraged that I saw family and community and children and hope to learn. Because I said, what do you hope to learn? I hope to learn, but that's okay. But it's just to get them thinking, right? So, but you can use Poll Everywhere for lots of different things, very similar to the Kahoot, except that students must register for this. So they have to register, use their COD email to log in, and they have to use the same email to log in over and over again. And you can create quizzes in here that you can then moderate the results of. And I've not tried to integrate this with Canvas, but I believe it can be integrated into Canvas. But I've not played with that. Vizia is one of my new favorite tools. It's almost like a toy for me. I love it. So you can take any video on YouTube, and what students have to enter their name and email. Once you've set it up. So this is one that I just did with students. And they play the video.
Let's start by exploring.
Quizzes pop up. I can have quizzes. I can have response boxes. There's one that's called Call to Action. So instead of just having them watch this video, right? This is a 35-minute video. We know our students' attention spans aren't that long, right? Especially at home with all the other stuff going on. So by embedding these little Q&As in there, you know you're going to make them watch the whole video. Because in order to get credit for having done it, they have to finish it. So this was again one of their first ones. So I would move my final one right out to the end of the video. And in order to proceed, they have to answer this. They can skip it, but then they're not going to get credit. Nice, right? Now the results, I'm going to...
Whether on a simultaneous or successive travel as they acquire.
Go to the end. Okay, Now, as an instructor, I log in. So this is free to you, by the way. This is free to you. So I log in, and I just created it with my Google account because I have a Google account. Here are all of my videos, and when I click on it as the instructor, I can see that there have been 11 responses, and I can open it in Google Sheets. Can download a CVS on it. What I do, because I don't have a ton, right, is I just open the Google Sheet and record those. So this is the downside. It creates an embed code. Students can take this right in Canvas. They don't have to leave Canvas. You have to go back into Visio to get the results. It doesn't integrate into our gradebook. So this is one of those things where my students get this, it's a pass-fail. If you did it, you're going to get the points. If you didn't do it, you're not getting the points. If you did it and you didn't answer all the questions, you don't get the points, right? So because I can always go back in here and peek. And I've had students say, I've done it. And I'm like, no, you didn't, because you don't have your email in there.
So you would do like 5 points as passing, 0 points? Okay.
Yeah. So I just have a few questions in there, not a ton, just enough to know that they're still watching. Even if they get the answers wrong, they're at least watching. If they get all the answers wrong, you didn't watch it. You need to do it over again. But this is fun. Now, this video in particular, it's a DVD that I have that I purchased from the California Department of Education. And it was encoded. So to be able to turn it into a digital file that I could show this way, I used a program called Handbrake. Or actually, my apologies, for this one I did not use Handbrake because Handbrake wouldn't work. It's a Blu-ray and it would not record it. So what I did was I opened Screencast-O-Matic and I played the video on my computer with the captions turned on, and I used the screencast to capture the video. Then I saved it as a MP4, uploaded it to YouTube, but kept it private because I do not own that video. So if I put it out on YouTube for anybody, they're going to catch me and pull it down. But if it's private, I've not had any problems with that.
I was gonna ask you about that. For example, if I purchase a movie through Amazon that I want to show my students or whatever, wherever other site, and I want to caption it and I want to make it available for them, what's the best way to do that? Through the process you're describing, to get it captioned first and then upload it to a private YouTube and then send them out the link to that.
So there's two ways to do this. One is the way I just described, using Screencast-O-Matic and just playing it on my computer. That for me is the it's the lesser of my two options.
Okay.
But when Handbrake doesn't work, I do this.
Okay.
If otherwise, if it works with it, I use Handbrake, which is a free program you can download, and it rips the DVD off and saves it as a digital file. However, you lose the caption. So what I do, we're going just a little bit off topic, but I think it's important. To get it captioned is I go to 3cmediasolutions.org. I'm going right to it. 3cmediasolutions.org. Now, you have to register. This is another one of those services that is free to you as community college faculty. Once you register, you request upload privileges. Because what they need to do is verify that you're community college faculty. So make sure you use your College of the Desert email when you register. Now, once I've done that, I upload my media. And let me find one that I had no trouble uploading. Like this one I used, the Preschool Learning Foundations. I burned these directly off. I used Handbrake. They were DVDs I got from the California Department of Ed. And once I upload it, see this decked captioning grant? You just click on, you create your media, you upload it here, then you request it be captioned. The turnaround time is just a couple days. I've never had it be longer than 2 or 3 days, regardless of the length of the video. And then it is professional. So I can show it to my students and not feel like I've, you know. And the beauty of using this is it's behind a firewall. Nobody can get to it. I can have it in here. I can share it with other faculty through here. It generates an embed code, so I can just embed it right into my page in Canvas rather than link students out to it. Anytime you can keep them in the LMS, it's better, right? You link them out and you lose them. Think about ourselves. If you link me out to something, I'm gonna then from there I'm gonna go somewhere else and I'm gonna go somewhere else, and in 2 hours have passed and I'm like, oh shoot, I need to go. I was supposed to be doing class. And the students do the same thing, right? Ping pong everywhere. So I try to keep them in. The downside is if you want to use Vizia, it has to be a YouTube video. It can't be a video that's in 3C Media. The embed code doesn't work. But I can do the same thing that I just did, right? There's a share link. I can share this onto YouTube if I wanted to embed a quiz in it. I can share it onto YouTube, keep it private, use that link to bring it up to Vizia. So I'm really happy with Vizia. This is one of my new favorite tools. Because if anything longer than 5 minutes, and I know they're not going to watch the whole video, right? They're just not. Or they get distracted by having that little quiz embedded. So 3C Media, though, is your best bet for housing the videos. Like you can see when I go to Media, I have a ton. Each one of these folders has at least 5 or 6 videos in them. And these are the ones I haven't yet put away. The other thing that I'll do with videos is I record myself navigating my course. I upload it into here and have them caption it. And so now I have a captioned video for how to navigate my course in Canvas. Screencast-O-Matic. Screencast-O-Matic it's free. If you want to get fancy, you can pay for it. It costs $15 a year, but if you sign up for 3 years, it's $10 a year. $30 for a 3-year subscription. It's so inexpensive. It's one of those things that I was like, we don't even need a campus account for this because it's so inexpensive. You know, we're going to have the training on Camtasia on Friday. If you're interested in learning how to use Camtasia, it's a software, it's a video editing software. It's what I'm running right now to record this session. But Screencast-O-Matic can do almost the same thing, and it's much easier to work with. You really don't have to learn how to use it. It's simple. So this is what I use to do those recordings. If you have the paid version, it doesn't.
Records your screen, so whatever
It records your screen and it will record your camera. I don't want to turn it on because I'm running Camtasia, and I think that might make my computer get funky. You may not like that. But it records anything that's going on your screen, and you can use your screen cam to have yourself in the corner. What I can do, let me close you, is show you how that looks on this video.
And then you just hook up a microphone to your computer?
I have a built-in mic. When I'm recording at home, because there's sometimes background noise, I have a little headset with a mic, so that way if there is background noise, it doesn't pick it up. But this is what it looks like.
I am going to show you how to navigate my Canvas course. I assume you already know how to find and log into Canvas from our COD.
Yep. You can, with the paid version of Screencast-O-Matic, you can type in the script you think you're going to use and then record it in like half-minute intervals. So if I get stuck somewhere or make a mistake, it's saved it all the way up to there. And I can just make a change right in that one spot that I need to. The editing in it is very simple. I can do like a Friday session on it, if you guys are interested. And it uses your webcam, right? So you can record your little face down in the corner. As, Kim calls it your bobblehead. You know, I will often do that for these recordings, is I will have the camera on. Students tend to watch it more when your face is in there. It's my own anecdotal notes, but I'm telling you, I know that when my face is not in there, they're less likely to watch it. I don't know why. I think there's a piece of that. They think you can see them on some level. You know, there's this kind of, it's accountability. Yeah, I'm not sure why, but it does seem to work better. TED Ed is similar to Vizia, but it uses TED Talks. And unlike Vizia, in TED Ed, the questions only come at the end of the video. So Vizia, you can embed them within. TED Ed, so this is one I just did with my students. It's for my child development class, Why Do Women Have Periods? That's an important thing to know about conception. So it's not a very long video, this one, yeah, under 5 minutes. So I'm not as worried about embedding, right? And then at the end, there are 6 multiple choice questions that students do. Then I have a dig deeper. So there's additional resources for them to explore if they're interested in learning more. And then there's a guided discussion. And this, again, you can integrate it into Canvas, but I've not found how to get those scores in. So I still have to get in here, and if I go down to my notifications, it will show me here are the students' responses.
So do you just use this as a pass-fail too?
Yep. It's a pass-fail. I will just glance through their answers, got to see, did they, especially the multiple choice, it will self-grade. So it tells them when they've got them right or wrong, and I glance at their little paragraphs quickly and like, yep, okay. It's just one of those pass-fail, but it's interactive and it's fun for them. They enjoy these kinds of things, and it's not me talking. That's always a plus when it's not you talking. I'm going to skip these because these are all in Canvas, and I'll go into Canvas and show you. VoiceThread is another one of those things that's very interactive. So you were looking for something that was more interactive. VoiceThread is very interactive. And I want to say we have a campus account for VoiceThread, but I'm not positive. So this is a VoiceThread I've created last year. I used it in October about Vizia and TED Ed. And what I did was
Hi, welcome to my VoiceThread.
this one is a copy of it because I was doing a VoiceThread certified educator. But students can record audio, video, or type their answers. Nice, right? So this is the reply.
Hey, Donna, great job on the upload, comment, and share activity.
I think I only had like 2 slides in here.
I just wanted to confirm that I saw it and you completed all the steps you needed to. Just a few notes for future reference. You can rearrange the order. So this slide.
So the audio on that is not working well, not this. Right, the audio on here works quite well. I'm trying to think, this one I think, oh, it's slide 1 of 10, so I got more slides in here.
It is in the middle of the presentation.
No. There we go. So in this one, he had me using, there were different tools he wanted to see being used, so I was using all the different tools. So students would watch all the slides. This is for me, that there's editing, all kinds of things I can do in here. But it's basically, you can use PowerPoint, but there are other things you can do as well. Let me get to my, there, close out of this. They recently updated the platform, so I feel like I'm searching more. Owned by me. Go to ones that are owned by me. So this one is one that I will use with my students actually in the next couple weeks. And this is Understanding Infant Cognition. So I've got an artifact in here I want them to read. It's an assignment. The next slide is a TED Talk about infant cognition. It's about
So the video
There's
I've
me telling them to
embedded
watch
here, I
the TED
used
Talk.
the,
and then this was, again, something that I would tell the students, you just watch something about how amazingly brilliant infants are and that they can do statistics. And here's a Khan Academy 5-year-old math assessment. What do you think about that, given that we know infants are brilliant? Does this seem like it's appropriate to do with 5-year-olds, or is it just too simple? My hope is that they're going to say, well, that's way too simple. If infants can take statistics, why are we doing, is this more than, less than kind of stuff? All right, and then I've got an image here that I want them to talk about. Again, it's, tell me what kind of math a child would learn. It's slow. I can see the next image, you can't. Oh, there it is. So tell me what kind of math children would learn interacting in the kitchen with their family. That was another, the replace slide was something he had us do. So you can see this is very interactive for students, right? Very interactive. It embeds into Canvas, just like the other stuff I was talking about. So it's just right in there. They don't have to leave Canvas. You have to go to VoiceThread to moderate, right? Because you're going to want to reply. This isn't something I do a lot of because it's a lot of work for me. Once I've got it set up, the interacting and going back in with the students, but what an amazing way to have a discussion with them and really get to their thinking, right? And students can create their own voice threads. So I can have a student create a voice thread of themselves doing something. So this, I think, might get to your, I want to see more interaction, right? This is a really powerful platform for doing lots of things. I tend to think of it as like PowerPoint. I'm going to create a PowerPoint and upload it, but there's so much more you can do in here. Right? I can add artifacts, I can add videos, I can create videos of myself doing something and then have, for me in ECE, I could have a video recording of children playing, stop it at certain points, circle it, see this little girl, see what she's doing here, tell me what that is about. And then the students have to reply. And the students really like this. They really like this. The ones that are embarrassed about the camera won't use the camera. They will just type comments or use an audio, but they really enjoy this. It's another one of those kind of out of the box, different ways to assess. So now I think, I'm going to show you Zoom really quickly, and then I'm going to get into Canvas. Yeah, so that was my last slide. How are we on time? Oh, we're good. All right, so let me show you Zoom, because I mentioned it a couple times. It's another one of those things where you think of it as it's video conferencing, but certainly I could assess students this way as well, right? It's an oral assessment. Log in and talk to me. So let me see my account. So it's zoom.us, and it's CCC Confer is what like the host is. So again, when you sign up, make sure you're signing up as College of the Desert, and then they verify that you're part of the CCC Confer, and you get the pro account for free. So, and again, it's something that students can get for free, and you can record, you can do webinars, right? So you can host a webinar in here for students. You can have them all log in at the same time, or you can save that webinar and then upload it and say, okay, I want you to watch this later if you weren't able to log in. Sometimes students, they're working, right? They're in another class. I can't meet you at that time. I've had a few students say that about my Monday, Wednesday night office hours. I can't make those, so I set up an alternative time. So let me get into now Canvas. So this is actually your class. And in Unit 4, we've covered some of these things. I didn't talk about Explain Everything. It's an interactive whiteboard app. It's really good for, might work well for CIS, but I know it's really good for math. Students can draw on it like a whiteboard, and they can talk their way through what they're doing. So the instructor can then go back later and watch that video and then say, okay, see here at, step number 5, that's where you messed up. That's where you made your mistake. We've done quizzes we didn't do. I've not used quizzes before. It's similar to Kahoot, so where it's an online assessment game. I just signed up for an account today. It's not something I've played with. This, though, the ThingLink, I want to share this with you quickly. This is the Bloom's Digital Taxonomy. And what I will do sometimes for like a summative assessment, so this is a big assessment, I will tell students that they can choose anything from applying and above to create their project, to show me what they've learned. And when you mouse over this, it gives them ideas. So they could use Glogster to create an online interactive poster. This one is Educrations, create and share online video lessons. YouTube, that's the one they all know how to use YouTube. Go Animate, I had a student use Go Animate on one of his projects just this last couple weeks ago. He loved it. He had so much fun with that. PBWorks, create wikis for online collaboration, so if they're wanting to work together. Please sign up and upgrade. No, go away. There we go. If I stay out of full screen, it won't do it. Poll Everywhere, Mindmodo. Some of these things I've never, Powtoons. I had a student use Powtoons to do a whole lesson for children. It's really good. Voki lets them create avatars that talk. So it's an avatar. the avatar itself doesn't talk. They do a voiceover, but the avatar like moves. It's animated. Storyboard. They can write a story online and share it. So I tell them anything at applying and above. And I remind them that remembering and understanding are low level. And that I need to assess that they can apply the information that they've learned. So lots of fun stuff. VoiceThread's in there. DoInk. Podomatic, create a podcast. Laborize, right? They can create talking images. So that I post this in there. I tell them, go ahead, create anything from there and above. And occasionally I've had students say to me, but I don't know how to use that. Like, well, then don't choose that one. Then don't choose that. Choose one that you're going to be comfortable with, or they usually have enough lead time that I'll tell them, pick one at the beginning of the semester and play with it. See if you can be comfortable with it, and then use it. Or create something quick and easy and cute with it. Play with it. Just like I do before I unleash on them, right? So I want to go into one of my classes and show you. Apologize, I'm getting a tickle in my throat. So these have students in them, so I'm going to go into an old class. Actually, I created a sandbox. I'll do it in the sandbox. So if I wanted to do the peer review, okay, so I'm going to go into assignments. I'm going to add an assignment. Actually, I apologize. I'm going to do it in discussions. Yeah, I do this one in discussions. So I'm going to add a new discussion. I'm very deliberate with my explanations here for students. You're going to post on this date, then on that date you're going to be assigned a peer, then you're going to post the peer review, and here are the questions you're going to use for the peer review. I make sure that I'm very explicit, and even then I will get questions, especially the first time you do it. So anticipate the questions.
Can I just do this in my sandbox and save it so I can refer back to it?
Yeah, yeah. So graded, allow threaded replies, display graded as points, assignment group, leave it in assignments. So just right here, I click require peer review. So I can manually assign peer review, which is what I do, because if I do automatically assign peer review, what happens is it just assigns students, even if they hadn't submitted. I don't know why. So I leave it on the manually assigned peer review, and I will go in. Matter of fact, I'm going to go in tonight and assign some peer reviews. Plus, I know which students I want to review to whom. At this point in the semester, I know them well enough to know, like, I'm not going to give the student who's a complete slacker to somebody who's an A student, because it's just not going to work. So I try to pair them up with their motivation levels. The slackers I just leave together. Like, you're going to take each other down, and that's okay. Assign to everyone. So your due date, so I say I make the due date for tomorrow, that peer review has to happen after the due date. It's just weird. So if like I did automatically, one review, here I have to set the due date. So I set it here for, yeah, the same day. So there's the next day. So I can have it, try to have it auto do it. And if it's low level, I might do it that way, but usually by the time I'm doing peer review, it's usually something big. So I want that control. And then I just save and publish. So that's the peer review. You do it in the discussion thread. It's pretty simple. Quizzes are pretty easy to do. Have you, either any of you played with the quizzes in here yet? Okay, they're actually pretty simple. So I can create a quiz. I wonder, let me go back here real quick. If I can import a quiz I've already created. No, I'm not seeing it. Let me cancel this one, I already started one. All right. So this is the one, I want to edit it. So this can be, I can leave it as say unnamed quiz. So I can do a practice quiz, a graded quiz, a survey, or an ungraded survey. So the ungraded survey, sometimes, or practice quiz is what I start with. When I first do anything with students, there's no real points. Or if there are, it's just participation. Try it so that they're comfortable with it. I can shuffle the answers.
So what's the difference between a practice quiz and an ungraded, oh, gotcha, so you can only do a practice quiz, graded quiz.
Right.
Survey, ungraded survey, okay.
So the shuffling answers, I think, is a good idea, especially if you're doing a high stakes quiz or exam, right? So that if we're sitting next to each other, and I'm going, what'd you get for 3? I got that, right? So, and I think you can even shuffle the questions. You can shuffle how the questions are offered. You can shuffle the answers so that they're not helping each other out. This lets students see their quiz responses, incorrect questions. I do, because my quizzes are very low stakes. So I usually give them 2 or 3 attempts. And they're really a very small part of my class. But I know some people do more high stakes, and you want to make sure that you're doing this appropriately. So I definitely shuffle the answers. I give a time limit because my quizzes are low stakes and they're short quizzes, like 5 answers. If you can't do that in 30 minutes, you just didn't bother reading the material. So I usually will give a time limit. I do allow multiple attempts. I usually give them 3. I let them see their responses, but I know I was just talking to a nursing faculty who was horrified that the students could see their responses. She did not want them to do that. So you can change that, so only after their last attempt, if you wanted to. So there's lots of different things you can do in here. Or show correct answers at, you can have them show at a different time.
Do you have a bank of like, say, 20 questions, but you only ask them 10? And so then if it shuffles, they may not get the same ones the second time.
You can do
around?
that, yeah.
Is that reviewing question groups or?
You know what, I'm not positive on that. I'm not positive on that, and I know that you can sometimes upload a test bank from the publisher, but some of this stuff I would refer over to Nicholas, because he's going to do better with Canvas in this area than I will. I'm not that good with the quizzes. I've just played with them a little bit. I tend to not give quizzes. That's not how I assess. My assessments mostly are coming through the discussion boards and through assignments. Now, what's nice here, I'm just going to cancel this. So, but you play with the quizzes. You can create your own questions and answers. But for assignments and files, I can find files from another class. It's not going to do it now. Maybe I got to do it in files. Yeah, so I'm in files now. And if I wanted to find, here it is, all my files. So all the files I've uploaded into any of my courses, I can go back and find. So say I've got this great assignment in my child development class, or one thing that I use over and over again is the, let's see, these are all my assignments are in here. Not my course policies, college level writing standards and grading rubric. I use this over and over again whenever I assign essays. So I have it, I can take it from one class and move it into the other class. So I don't have to keep reinventing that wheel, and I don't have to keep uploading it from my own files. It's in here. So for me, I have this thing I wrote, I don't know, years ago. You know, what does a college level paper look like, and how do I grade it? And it's all right there. So if I wanted just to upload that, download it, view it.
Files section?
So I was in files, and then at the very bottom it said all my files,
Okay.
and I clicked on that. My welcome letters from my classes, so I can just open that, make a few edits, update it. Right? Or if I have an assignment I really like,
I have to run, I'm sorry.
that's okay.
I worked just until 2, right? Am I supposed to be, or does it go on after?
Oh, you are right. I'm thinking 2:30. We are like done.
I mean, I could sit here too and listen.
I'm sorry, I just lost track of that time. You guys need to go. It did. It went faster than I thought it would.
If we